Hi guys, so today I'm here at Louth VolksWorld with the BMW M3, and this is an E92 version, but it's even more special than that. It's a 1 of 500 limited edition Monte Carlo. So let's see if this really is a future classic. This is the E92 BMW M3 in a 2010 plate. Now it gives you 420 brake horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque from a 4-litre naturally aspirated V8 engine. Now this is the Monte Carlo edition, so you get that gorgeous blue, some carbon fibre like this beautiful roof, and some other little bits here and there. Now it's a rear-wheel drive 1 of 500 examples with an auto 7-speed DCT. Now inside you can find your traditional 2010 BMW interior with some nifty little upgrades for the M division. Now these buttons we'll talk about a little bit later, which is really exciting, but you also have 2 rear seats and this nifty little seatbelt holder. The E92 M3 is always raved about as the best M car BMW produced. It has that amazing naturally aspirated V8, the last of its kind in an M3. And let's be honest, everybody loves the sound of a V8. Edition, which means it has that beautiful Monte Carlo blue. It has lots of carbon features throughout, especially that roof. It looks incredible, and it also means it's a limited edition, so there's only 1 in 500, which again adds to the whole future classic idea. If it's even more limited, even more of a future classic potentially. People choose the E92 M3 because it is actually quite usable, so they tend to have it actually as their only car. And I mean, just cruising through town now, it is pretty comfortable. The suspension's a little bit firm at high speeds, but it's nothing that you can't manage. The speed is quite gradual, and with the DCT box in quite a soft mode, it's really gentle and it's not as aggressive as, say, you would absolutely floor in it. So it kind of fits in that middle bracket quite nicely because it has all that potential. Sounds incredible, but you can have those little town drives and commutes in it without actually breaking your back. The only downside to that is, though, the predicted miles per gallon combined is 23. Now we all know in a car like this, you are not going to be that light-footed. So realistically, I'd say expect 15. Now, being the Monte Carlo, it means this version does actually have the EDC, which means the electronically controlled dampers, and it adjusts the suspension so you can have it turned on really hard and firm, you can have it quite soft, or you can have it somewhere in the middle. Now, again, adding to what I've said before, it means you can actually daily this car, because a lot of the M cars, the suspension is really, really firm. And as I've heard with the traditional E92 M3s, where it doesn't have the EDC, they are really, really firm at slow speeds. So this actually just makes it that little bit more special. The one downside that I've heard a lot of with the E92 versions of the M3 is they can have quite a few sort of complications. So things like the rod bearings in the engine can need replacing quite often. But every car comes with its faults, and I know that whatever car you look at, regardless whether it's brand new or not, there's going to be something that's going to be particular to that car that goes wrong. And especially with these, they have to be maintained properly. So if you're looking to get one, do double check that. The steering, it's not terrible, but it does feel a little bit laggy. So it's not as direct as I want it to be, but I reckon with some modifications, you could actually make this a really direct, and the nose will go exactly where you want it to. On the steering wheel, there is a little M button, and this is my favourite thing about this car because it's completely customisable. Now the M mode in one instance can change your throttle response, the DCT setting, but because even just in the gearbox alone, there is 6 settings, and you can pick which one you want out of it, and all 3 of them pieces together, that M mode will change it to how you want it to be. So you can set that up prior. Don't ask me how. That'll be a whole different video. But when you press that M button, instead of messing around with everything individually, it does it all for you. And if that isn't clever, I don't know what is. The DCT doesn't actually have a sport setting, it's just on or it's flappies. But the flappies are actually really nice. They're really easy to press. They're quite a reasonable size. Maybe extenders would be quite nice. But I'm sorry, the sound of that V8 is incredible. It beats everything on this car. It is so long that 3-point turns turn into about 50-point turns. Especially on a nice tight little track like this. You all know I love an M car. I mean, I had an M2 myself, and I've driven an E93 version as well. And I found the E93 felt so heavy and so laggy that it kind of spoiled how amazing the engine was. And I've heard that the E92 is so much better. So actually having a go in one now, I can see what people mean, that having that convertible aspect just adds that much weight that it kind of spoiled it. But the chassis and everything on this, it all complements each other, and it is, I see why people love them. I really do. Now this model in particular is up for 29,000. Now it's only done 50,000 miles for a 2010 plate, and we have to remember it is a limited edition. Now these E92s you can pick up so cheap that it's actually surprising, and they're worth the money. They 100% are. You get so much for your money in performance, in the whole, if looked after right, it could be an investment, because these are a future classic. It's the last of the naturally aspirated V8s, and they're just something special. You think being rear wheel drive as well, they'd be incredibly twitchy. I mean, they're used a lot as drift cars, and a lot of people buy them and be idiots on the roads drifting them and all that kind of stuff. But actually, from a track perspective and feeling planted, that EDC actually makes quite a bit of difference, because you can feel it so planted, and the back end doesn't feel like it's constantly gonna twitch. It's just kind of following the flow of the curves. Now, I think a few minor modifications for track, maybe get a track suspension, definitely proper seats. I've been passenger in one of these at Cadwell with leather seats and leggings, and you're slipping and sliding all over the place. So 100% harnesses and a proper seat. One, even at stock, they're not as rear end happy as you think. You really have to work at it. And 2, with the right setup, you have got a track monster. Gearbox into sport, which for this is a manual. Drop down all the 7 gears. And let's have a little play with that 8,600 RPM, which is going to feel so unnatural. You want to change so much earlier than you actually have to, and it's got a nice little flashing light as well, just to sort of say, yeah, you need to change now, it's okay. But in your mind, I mean, even a lot of performance cars, 6,500 tends to be around the average. 8,600, that is insane. You think of V8 and you think, rah, really loud, really in your face. But actually in the cockpit, cruising, it's quite relaxed. I mean, we're sat at 3,500 revs at the moment, and it's quiet. I thought it'd be all I hear, and you have the gruntiness when you accelerate, but it's not in your face. And I think that's because these kind of cars, they don't pump all the exhaust noise through like they do in the modern performance cars. So you're kind of in an illusion with that your car is super loud, but actually it's a lot of it is speaker noise. Whereas in this, what you're hearing is actually that incredible sound all the way through the soundproofing. So you can only imagine what it sounds like from outside. With these cars, you do have to let them warm up quite a bit. So now the oil's up to temp, let's have a little bit of more of a play. The gearbox is quite savage actually. When you are upshifting and downshifting quite quickly, it does give you a little which for me is my favourite thing about the DCT. And even in my M2 that I had, I loved that about it. I thought it was just character. They're fun, they're a little bit impractical in the winter, they're just full of this amazing and performance you wouldn't expect. I see why people love them. I really do. I see why there's so many E92 fanboys. And now I can say I'm an E92 fangirl. This is the peak of M cars. It is, I agree. I want to track one. I want to see actually how amazing the full capability of this car is. Because obviously on the road, you're never going to get that full experience, but I can just get the taste of it. To conclude my E92 M3 Monte Carlo edition review, I think you can tell by my face and my whole reaction to this video that I am now part of the E92 fan club. I think they are actually one of the best composed M cars there is at the moment, and it just feels so planted, which for someone like myself, I absolutely adore. So I think next on the bucket list is to get one of these out on track, and maybe even a proper track spec one would be just amazing experience. So there you guys have it, you know the drill. To make my journey your journey, like, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!